the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Matt, if you'll please take us through the roll call.
Counselor Robinson.
Here.
Batolo. Here. Hanson. Here. Zadi.
Here.
Hickerson.
Here.
Pedri.
Here.
Demas.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Mayor Mickelson.
Here.
Okay, which brings us to the approval of the City Council meeting minutes of January 16th, 2024. Council, do we have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Demas. Is there any discussion? Oh, for heaven's sakes. No, it's a consent agenda. Yeah, I got you could have just tossed something at me. So on our consent agenda, we have City Council meeting minutes, the appointment to the Rock Springs Transportation Committee of John Radosevich for his first term, Joint Powers Telecom Board meeting minutes of December 21st, 2023, and then under correspondence, we have a notice of schedule from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission regarding the westbound compression expansion project, and a University of Wyoming fall semester President's Honor Roll for Rock Springs students.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to hold the honor roll.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion for the entire consent agenda accepting the honor roll?
I'll move again.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. And
And
thank
I'll
you,
second.
Councilor Demas, for seconding. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. I asked Councilor Hickerson to hold that just because I wanted to extend my, and I'm sure the council's, congratulations to our local students who are doing such an outstanding job at the University of Wyoming, and we're clearly clever enough to pick the best university in the country that they could go to. So that is excellent work, and we're very proud of you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to accept that correspondence item. Thank you, Councilor Batolo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. And that brings us to our first of three bid openings this evening. The first is a uniform bid.
We hope.
It'll be a bid. Okay, this is from Alsco Uniforms in Ogden, Utah. It is a total weekly bid.
Your Honor, that's
That's
what
all
it
they do.
is.
They don't do a whole.
It's a weekly bid.
Okay. Well, it's $524.10 times 52.
Math guy.
I'm a little disappointed you couldn't do that in your head.
I'm curious.
27,253.
Yep, $27,253.20 would be the annual cost. $27,253.20.
And my math teacher said never have a calculator with me.
Right? Who knew?
Was there a bid bond?
No. I don't think is one required for that. Yeah. We're not required for that.
Good talk.
Thank you. Next up is our fuel bid from Homax Oil Sales. The bid is $256,639. our final is a bid for the Wataha Irrigation Installation Project. The bid total is $5,752,364.
One more time, please.
$5,752,364. There is a bond with this one, but I think they sent it digitally, and then they were sending the hard copy, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there's a bond. Thank you, sir. And that brings us to our presentations of this evening. This first is...
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Did you say the bidder? I didn't hear you.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Lexicon Inc., doing business as Heritage Links from Houston, Texas. Thank you. We'll have Janissa Meredith now come from Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism for her annual report.
Good evening. Is it on? Yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Janissa Meredith. I'm the CEO of Sweetwater County Travel and Tourism. Thank you for allowing me some time tonight to share with you our 2023 annual report. It looks like this, and it's in the yellow bags that I left for each of you. This is how the local lodging tax was spent in 2023. As you can see on page 1 there, it's a joint powers board made up of 6 appointments from the City of Rock Springs, 2 from Green River, 1 from Wamsutter, 1 from Superior, and 1 from the County Commission. Devin Brubaker is here tonight. He's our board treasurer. He does a great job for us, of course. Mark Lyon is our board chair. He is outstanding and has been on the board a long time. And then Corey Gardner is actually our vice chair right now, and he does a great job as well. There on page 2, you can see the lodging tax, as most of you know, has been in existence since 1991, and local voters have voted to impose that tax every 4 years since 1991. So the last election was in 2022, and we passed at 81% support. So local residents really understand the value of the lodging tax. And we are required to be audited every year, and we've had clean audits every year as well. You have that on record. We send that out to you every year as well. On page 2 there, you can see our location. We moved to 1641 Elk Street in 2020. We previously were in the Coyote Creek building at the time for 12 years, but we wanted to be on Elk Street, wanted to be able to meet those visitors that are heading to and from the national parks there on Elk Street. So when the opportunity became available to move to that building, we were super excited for that opportunity. Oh, quick side note on that. We've had triple the visitation. This last year, we had triple the visitation at that building that we had in 2021 or 2022. Triple. So something's working, and it's really, really exciting to see those visitors. As you can see on page 3, the lodging tax collection, we're collecting just over $1.2 million right now. You can see how it's collected over the years. We did increase to the 4% in the election of 2018, and that started being collected and brought to the tourism board in 19. So that's the little asterisk there, but right now collecting just over 1.2, as I mentioned. The budget breakdown there on page 3 as well. By state statute, the lodging tax has to be spent on marketing and promotional efforts. We can't build an attraction or anything like that. So the majority of the budget, that 77%, is for out-of-county marketing. 7% is for event grants, 3% is for chamber block grants, 4% for the events complex block grant, and 9% for administration. So we provide funding to both of the chambers of commerce to operate as visitor centers, and then also to the events complex for their out-of-county marketing and to help them recruit their events like the RV rallies and National High School Finals Rodeo and so on. On page 4 is a list of all the events that we funded in 22 and 23. So any nonprofit event that's hosted in the county that generates out-of-county hotel and campground occupancy qualifies for lodging tax funding. The board increased that maximum this year to $8,000. So those events can receive anywhere between $500 and $8,000 for out-of-county marketing or sponsorship for events that are already going to generate attendance. That photo is from the Airstream rally. We provided cowboy donuts to all the attendees at that Airstream rally at the events complex. We also recruit other events. I think I've mentioned to this group before that we recruited the 2023-2024 state Wyoming 3A and 4A boys and girls state soccer. It was hosted here in 2023, and we'll have it again in 2024. So 800 competitors and their families were here, so it's about a $6 million economic impact for those 2 years. This isn't in your report. This is what we call a heat map. We use this to kind of evaluate what time of the year and what weeks of the year would be good to add an event. You can see the occupancy in the green is where we're full and we don't really need additional occupancy, and the red indicates where we have more availability for hotel occupancy. On page 5, there are the committee and boards that I either host or serve on. I serve on the Wyoming Hospitality and Tourism Coalition. That's made up of 15 tourism professionals around the state representing the entire industry. I also serve on the steering committee for the Outdoor Recreation Collaborative. I chair the Lodging Association. I chair the Event Recruitment Committee. I chair the Rock Springs Beautification Committee. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. The Flaming Gorge Green River Basin Scenic Byway Committee. And then I also was just appointed to DMA West and Destinations International's boards. DMA West is a regional destinations marketing association of the West. So it's groups like ours representing the Western states. And then Destinations International is obviously an international organization. And I serve on both the Small Destinations Task Force and the Professional Development Committee. There on page 5 as well, it mentions our tourism master plan. So in 2021, in preparation for anticipation of federal funding becoming available, we did a tourism master plan, a 5-year plan. So many of you were involved in that, but we compiled 31 different guiding documents, so strategic plans from the cities, from the county, from economic development, from Game and Fish, from the Forest Service. So every guiding document that we could get a hold of, our consultant assessed those documents. We put together a steering committee of 24 local leaders and conducted 300 visitor and 300 resident surveys. Basically, what are the common themes? What are the ideas that are rising to the top for all of those guiding documents? What are the goals that we all can agree on? And we came up with a 5-year strategic plan, and some of the status items are there on page 5 as well. Partnership and collaboration is the number one goal that came out of that. So we can't do anything on our own. We have to work together, which we all partner really well. That's really a benefit in this area. And then under outdoor recreation, we talked about in that plan how we need to enhance the attractions that we already have. And a lot of that has to do with signage, leading people to those attractions. So what came out of that task was a city wayfinding plan update. So we received funding from the Wyoming Office of Tourism for destination development. So ever since they imposed a statewide lodging tax in 2021, they have additional funding that they can give to local lodging tax to do infrastructure, more physical structures. We can't use our lodging tax to build anything. So destination development funds can be used for things like this. I have not found another funding source for wayfinding until now. So super, super excited that this funding became available and wayfinding was a qualified project. So as you know, we're moving forward with the update to the wayfinding program. That's the final design of the sign update. This first phase, we have enough money to update 30 signs. They're going to take down the old signs, put up the new signs, and there's also a maintenance component to that contract as well. So super excited about that. I think it's going to really be an improvement. On page 6, the Flaming Gorge tours. Many of you have taken the bus tour with us. We launched that in 2021. We launched that because a lot of times when visitors are coming to our area, they want a guided experience. And we didn't have that. We didn't have something that was for an entire season where they could buy a ticket and experience the area and not have to navigate on their own. So that's why it was built. We've hosted over 1,000 passengers to date, and we've had really, really great reviews. Our tour guides have been phenomenal. So really excited about how that's come along. Bottom of page 6 there, sandboarding. We've talked about this before. I haven't really been able to promote it as much as I've wanted to until we can get some signage out there for safety. So I've worked with the BLM recently to get signage put up out there about sharing the sand and how motor vehicles need to be aware that there's going to be folks on board. So once those get installed, we'll do more promoting of that activity. And the Flaming Gorge All-American Road designation, that designation we obtained in 2021 as well. And that qualifies us for Federal Highway Administration funds. I submitted an application for a plan to build out the turnouts on the Wyoming side and to construct one of them. That was not successful, so I have another application ready to go, partnering with Utah. There is a site at the Henry's Fork location near the state line. It's just north of the state line by Lucerne Valley Marina. So there's an application for building out that Henry's Fork site that we have ready as soon as the Federal Highway Administration opens up that grant cycle. So stay tuned for that. This is our new All-American Road 30-second spot.
Flaming Gorge Country is a landscape like no other. Here, ancient rock formations and pristine wilderness meet stunning waterways and canyons. Tour the Flaming Gorge Scenic Byway, a designated all-American road in southwest Wyoming. And let the open road take you somewhere unforgettable. Travel safe and stay informed while adventuring responsibly in Rock Springs and Green River. Plan your adventure at explorewy.com.
I thought that turned out nice. Some of our board projects that fall outside of the scope of many of our projects, we have partnered with Downtown Rock Springs on a number of items. Travel and Tourism funded the Christmas lighted display. If any of you saw that, that was a partnership with us in downtown. And also the Rock Springs Historic Walking Tour brochure and the S'mores and Snowmen and shopping events. We sponsored the s'mores component of that as well, and the snowman stroll as well. So been doing a lot of partnering with Downtown Rock Springs, which has been great. I also applied for the funding to do the signage on the Mustang Loop Trail. The Wyoming Office of Outdoor Recreation provided a grant to do all of that signage, so I worked with a consultant on the design and fabrication of that. Every year we partner with KUTV2 News. This last summer, we featured rental opportunities in Sweetwater County. It used to be when you came to the area, if you didn't bring your own ATV, your own kayak, your own tube, your own mountain bike, you just didn't get to go and explore. So with so many businesses offering rental equipment right now, we feature them on KUTV2 News this past summer in July, and here is a spot from that. And this next summer will feature the National High School Finals Rodeo, again, for that segment. On page 8 and 9, that the bulk of the budget, that 77% is spent on ad-accounting advertising. So you can see there on page 8, the media that's placed, some of those metrics, and then on page 9, some examples of the creative development of that as well. This is our 2-minute spot. It's my favorite. I show it every time. We're going to redo it soon, but I wanted to show it to you one more time.
In Southwest Wyoming, adventure is waiting. This is how we explore it in Sweetwater County. Discover classic western towns like Rock Springs, where vibrant art meets natural history. Visit Green River, where the water kisses rock in an outdoor adventure haven. Make the drive and tee off your journey while surrounded by breathtaking landscape. Let your spirit run wild through the Flaming Gorge National Recreation Area.
Bless you.
And discover endless high desert hidden gems. Spark your senses among rare singing sand dunes. Stand in the shadows of giants formed over centuries and trek pristine trails to wide open space. Let authentic flavors lead you somewhere delicious and connect with the tastemakers who call Southwest Wyoming home. Venture out on 2 wheels to see this land for yourself, where memories are measured in miles explored. And gather with the ones you love beneath the bright lights and unforgettable events. Here, you can get off the grid with the people that matter most. Travel safe and stay informed while adventuring responsibly with Rock Springs and Green River. Plan your adventure at explorewy.com.
Oh, I just love it. Don't you love it? One thing I called out that isn't called out necessarily in your report is our public relations efforts. There's a lot of editorial coverage from our area, and a lot of people don't know that the work that goes on behind the scenes to secure those editorials. We host press trips every summer. We attend media missions. So a lot of the articles that you see that mention Rock Springs or Green River, we've usually had something to do with it. Not always. Sometimes they find the information, but a lot of times we've worked on the back end of that. So all of the editorial coverage that we received in 2023, the earned media value of that is $14.5 million. So if we'd paid for advertising in all of those publications, that's what it would have cost. And our Reach Awards. So we spend all this money to market to people to get them to come visit. We want to make sure they have a good experience when they're here. So this is a awards program. It stands for Rare and Exceptional Achievement for Customer Service and Hospitality. I've been doing it since 2008, making sure that the folks in the hospitality industry know how important they are and recognizing them for their exceptional efforts. And then in the same vein of customer service, we started the Certified Tourism Ambassador program a few years ago. It's 2 parts. One part, you learn about the area, about the attractions, about what makes Sweetwater County special. And then the other part, you just learn about good old-fashioned customer service and what it takes to be able to provide that at all levels. So we currently have between 120 and 140 CTAs. Renewals are a bit difficult. It's a high turnover industry, so chasing down those renewals is difficult, but it's a credential. It's $39 a person. Anybody can do it. You don't have to work in the hospitality industry. It's customer service focused, and it's really beneficial to any business. And then, of course, we measure all of our efforts every year. So wanted to make sure that when we're spending money to market Sweetwater County, that there's actually a return on investment to the local economy. So this is just measuring our advertising. The State Office of Tourism does a lot more research and measures a ton more metrics, but this is just measuring our advertising. We know that our advertising influenced almost $67 million in visitor spending. People bring about 3 people along with them. They stay about 3.2 days, engage in about 4.1 activities. So the average trip spending $13.09. So for every $1 we spend to market to them, there's a return on the investment to the local economy of $490. So It's working. We've measured this with the same company since 2008. It's called SMARI, Strategic Market and Research Incorporated. Very reputable company. It's exciting. This did not used to look this way. I've done this a long time. We used to get like a $40 return, and I was real excited about it. So these are really impressive numbers. Tourism is big business. Sometimes when we live here, we don't see it every day, but it is big business, and I'm honored to be a part of it and would take any questions that you might have for me.
Council?
There's probably at least another 30 to 40. So we'll call that phase 2 and part phase 3. So we'll receive that destination development funding on a biennium basis. So once we know how much we're receiving, the board will decide how that's allocated. So we'll finish up the Rock Springs plan. Green River already knows that they'll qualify for that funding as well. They want to do some enhancements to that greenway, the Greenbelt walkway, some signage like that. But yeah, it'll take at least one more phase, if not a small phase after that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, thank you for all of your work and,
Thank you.
for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much.
Up next, we have the Urban Renewal Agency Annual Report with Chad Banks, manager.
I think I cleaned it up.
And others.
I'll actually introduce Maria Mortensen, who is our board chair, and will do the presentation with you here. It should stop on its own.
Okay, good. It stopped by itself. So, like Chad said, my name is Maria Mortensen, and I'm the board chair of the Urban Renewal Agency, and I have been for, I don't know, several years now. A couple people we have here tonight that I would like to introduce. Sue Lozier, who is our board secretary treasurer, and Rosa. I knew she was back there. Rosa Reyna Pugh is also a board member, and she has just been incredible having her on board. She's bilingual. She helps us with the Spanish-speaking community, and that's incredibly helpful. So there were just a couple things I wanted to highlight about the presentation, is that downtown is home to nearly 200 businesses and organizations. And you'd think for as small as our downtown area is, that's a lot. That's an awful lot. Nearly 600 full-time jobs and over 250 part-time jobs. A total of 13 new businesses were established in downtown in 2023. Janessa had mentioned media coverage, and we had noticed there was a downtown in Rock Springs received extensive media coverage with over 100 articles in local and regional publications. And additionally, the downtown Rock Springs Facebook page had a reach of over 250,000 with more than 500 posts and 13,000 followers. I noticed that Rock Springs came up a lot in, one of the fun ones I noticed is 10 quirkiest towns in Wyoming. And I thought, well, that's kind of a fun one to be a part of. And a lot of those ones that'll say like best place to retire or, best place to visit. And I find I'm so pleasantly surprised to see Rock Springs in so many of those. So I share them with Chad, and then we share them on the downtown page. So that's really awesome to have that sort of attention. Efforts were made to help the community grow, including 2 national backing small business grants for $5,000 each. And those were for Coltrane Coffee Depot and the Stellar Cellar. We provided facade grants this year to Joe's Liquor and Bar. We assisted them in the sign restoration project. They really wanted to keep an original neon sign. That was a lot of work for them to get done, a lot of fundraising, so we helped with that. Eileen's Attic, Anvil Wealth, Boris Tusk Steakhouse. If you haven't been in there, it's worth going. Escape Day Spa, New York Life and Real Invest at 165 K Street. We've done special features for women and Latino-owned businesses. And volunteers played a big role in the community with 3 standing committees and over 1,400 volunteer hours. Community engagement activities include coffee and conversations and ladies who lunch. So we host these events where people can get together and anybody can come and just tell us if they have ideas, if they have questions. You hear a lot of, well, why don't they do this or why don't they do that? And not everybody understands who they is and what they are able and not able to do. And sometimes people show up with some really amazing ideas that we've never even thought of. So those are things that we're going to continue into this year. Bunning Hall hosted over 100 events with attendance topping 13,000. My son got married there in May, and it was absolutely beautiful. That's, you go to events there, but to have something that personal, and the way that the tables, the chairs, everything that we were able to set up, it was just a beautiful place. And obviously it's full all the time. So it is a beautiful place to have events at. The Broadway hosted 89 public events with attendance topping 6,000 and is home to 4 theater groups. So it's one of those things, I know the Actors Mission has always been around, and I know you can go to, you can go to the college and you can go to the high school, and I'm always stunned when I go about the incredible talent that we have here. And now there are, in addition to Actors Mission, 3 more theater companies and just some really incredible shows. So when people say there's nothing to do here, I beg to differ a lot. And the talent that comes up everywhere from the high school to the college and to the theater companies. I would really urge people, if you haven't attended a theater event, please go. And we also had partnerships with countless business sponsors and partnerships that we formed in 2023 and previous years, and that we will continue to do. And last, I would just like to let everybody know that we're doing our promotion for Friends of the Broadway membership. It's $25 per individual. It helps us keep the social club liquor license so we can serve beverages at the theater. I just did memberships for 4 of my family members, so my husband, myself, my daughter, and her partner, and my mom did one. So I would encourage everybody to do that. It's $25. We have to have a minimum of 100 people as members to keep that liquor license and that concession and bar open. So I would encourage you all to do that. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Council?
I just have a comment on your comment on the articles we see that are generated at Rock Springs being a good place to retire, to visit, the most quirkiest, everything else. Well, my kids being kids, they always, grass is always greener. They can't wait to leave Rock Springs, yada, yada. I'm always forwarding them those articles saying, see, Rock Springs isn't a bad place. So it's nice to see those out there and really highlighting what we do have in our community.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting that you say that, the grass is greener. So I grew up in Jackson. My family is all from here, so I always spent time here. And I couldn't wait until I graduated It's like I graduated in 1984, and by 1985, Rock Springs was my home. And I can think off the top of my head, 5 of my high school classmates that also call Rock Springs home and love it and wouldn't trade it to go back to Jackson. Not that I don't love Jackson, it's not the Jackson we grew up in, but the same thing, you don't see it the same way. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees, right? And so I would just, I love that. I love that you do that. I would tell your kids, it's a great place. Lots of people can't wait to come here.
Your Honor? Yes, sir. Couple of things. I know it's a little bit early, but I know you guys are also working on getting the high school somewhat involved as well. I don't know if you guys are ready to talk about that yet. And another thing, we have so many buildings in the downtown area that the owners don't do anything with. And I know for a fact, being the liaison to the URA, that we have businesses that want to locate downtown but can't find a suitable place. But yet we have all these buildings that are vacant. It makes no sense. So how do we encourage those that own these buildings to put some money into them and get them out?
We've been working on that for years, and I don't know. One thing I do know is you can't force a private property owner to do anything with their property. I don't personally know or understand what the benefit is to keeping a property that's just falling apart and dilapidating and ultimately on its way to condemnation. I don't know why. I think some people, I don't know. I think some people would like to, and there are some buildings that are rented out, but they're not necessarily up to date. They're not, so a business would have to sink in a lot of money into bringing someone else's building up to however they want a business to look.
I know it's not an easy answer, but it's sure a pet peeve of mine. And Councilman Hickerson has asked us to, pick a project or two that we would like to really get behind. Well, one of mine is anything that we can do as a city to get behind some of these buildings to get up to, code, whatever needs to be done to them. Whatever we can do, I'm surely behind that.
Yeah, and I think buildings get to a point where, you can fix them up, but then you get to some point, like I will, one of my favorite buildings is the Fountain Club. I mean, it's beyond, I think it's beyond repair, which really breaks my heart because I love the old buildings. And, anyone, even we call it the Stone Bank building, the one that the American Legion owns. It's my understanding it's just hollow on the inside. But even so the gutting's already been done, but I don't know how much, I imagine it's a tremendous amount even to just finish the inside. And I wish I had an answer. Yeah. I know what I think, but I'm not the person that can make those things happen. And as far as the high school, yes, it's not a secret. We really want to give children, you mentioned your children, a stake in their community. And one of the things that we talked about once is that, you don't realize that you're like the old people until young people point stuff out to you. And, we have had a couple of different times where we've had young adults serve in different capacities on our board and committees. And we know what we want, but we want to open it up and let the youth of our community, you're however old you grew up here, but now if you want us to stay here, we need to make our community into what we want it to be, so we choose to stay. So there's going to be some work going to getting some, high school students involved in being on committees and boards and giving us ideas for what we can do. If, you want your children to stay, we need to hear what they need to have happen for that to be something that they choose to do. So that's pretty exciting. I feel like we did a lot of work with that years ago, not necessarily us, we were involved in the very first Tigertown Bash, and that was incredible. And then we never had to do anything else because the people that do it, I believe it's the school district, the people within the district, the Hall of Fame club groups do that. And it's so incredible now. When my children were in high school, we didn't have, they had parades, but nobody went. You know, like a homecoming parade, the kids would go and watch. But like, look what's happened now. The Art Underground, young people are putting their art in there. We have students, high school and junior high kids that put their art in there. And so we're just trying, this is your town, not ours. We share it together. We're all residents. And so we want the young people to be really involved and make it what they want it to be.
Like, with one more question, I know one thing you could do to keep youth here is recruit somebody for a Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A would keep me here till the day I die.
I think that would help a little bit.
No, you're right. Yeah, but again, I don't know how that happens. I'm not the one that can make that happen. But I would be 100% in support of that.
All we have to do to get a Chick-fil-A is double or triple our population, and it's a lock. No problem.
Yeah. Well, I wish that they would take a look at the greater area and realize the things like, if I live in Lyman and Chick-fil-A's in Rock Springs, I'm going to come to Rock Springs over, I don't know, Evanston or anywhere else they could go to do their.
My daughter would drive that.
You know, what's the most disappointing thing is when you're in Salt Lake and you realize it's Sunday. And you didn't plan well for that. But yeah, we just have so many things we want to do, and, you know, making the downtown beautiful, making it attractive, and, you know, doing everything we can to get people to come downtown and to get our kids to stay. I have one that stayed and will never leave, and I have one that flew the coop as soon as she could. And she loves to come home, and she always tells me, oh my gosh, that mural, that wasn't here last time I was there. And they point out things that they don't see, which, you know, we work on. And I would love to have both my children here, but I would really like for as many of the children that we watch grow up, we see in the newspapers, we watch them at their sporting events. I would really like for them to choose to stay here. Because it's really, I love this place, and I wish everybody did as much as I do, so.
Agreed.
All righty, well, thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Next up, we have the Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport update from Devin Brubaker.
All right. Mayor, councilors, I apologize for my voice. I've been singing all day long to Toby Keith. So if I cough or crackle my voice a little bit, been a little sentimental today. So, and thank you, Kristen or Matt, for the cup full of paper clips that I found in your cupboard to make this happen. So I'm going to risk it and actually drink water out of it. It may be there for many years, who knows, but I hear they're decomposable in 14 years. So, all right. So to get started, this morning at the county commission meeting, I had to follow Janessa and Dr. Holly Krucka from the School of Energy Resources, and today I get to follow Janessa and Maria and Chad, and so I keep drawing the short straw here. So I need to work with Kristen here and Sally over at the county to do better on the scheduling. But here to do an update for the airport. Last time I did a true airport update was December 22. I know I've been before you for other issues, but doing just an overall update of the airport hasn't happened in quite a while. So I wanted to do that. Apologize that I scheduled it on the same day that you had other annual reports. So in 2022, when I was before you all, I had slides that were titled 2022, A Year of Stifled Recovery. I didn't have to change much in the title for these next couple slides because 2023 was a year of another year of stifled recovery in the post-pandemic world for aviation. The aviation industry experienced a honeymoon post-pandemic honeymoon, if you will, where there's been an extreme demand for air travel. Unfortunately, most airlines and airports have been unable to meet that demand due to labor shortages, aircraft shortages, air traffic control shortages, and overall airspace congestion. Additional challenges are likely. We'll talk about those, especially for rural communities in the near future. And then furthermore, based on my 20 years in the industry, I am growing more and more uncomfortable with the macroeconomic situation in the aviation industry, specifically with airline pilot agreements, labor agreements. For instance, when you have a major airline agreeing to a deal with its pilots that adds $10 to $12 billion of additional compensation over a 4-year period, they got to generate that revenue somewhere. And if they don't generate that revenue somewhere, they're going to be bankrupt. So I really am concerned about what the long-term viability of the current economic structure of the aviation industry looks like. Continuing on these themes, comparing 2023 to 2019, more than 300 airports have lost up to 25% of their air service. More than 160 airports have lost more than 25% of their service, including us. Major U.S. passenger and cargo airlines hired an astounding 12,335 new pilots in 2023, but the U.S. only produces 5,000 to 7,000 new pilots a year. So you do the math, it creates a crisis level shortage of pilots that is also extending into aircraft mechanics. It's also extending into fuelers, to ground handlers, to basically every facet of aviation. Even the airport management industry is starting to realize that we don't have enough people to replace the baby boomers that are retiring out of airport management. So there is a major labor crunch in the aviation industry. On the pilot front, the reasons that has happened is due to inflow and outflow issues at a macroeconomic level. The 1,500-hour rule that passed early around 2012 increased the minimum hours to get an airport or an airline transport pilot license from 250 hours to 1,500 hours. That was a result of a Colgan Air disaster that occurred in Buffalo, New York, that had absolutely nothing to do with the number of hours the pilots were being trained, had to do with sleep deprivation and crew rest issues, but Congress in their infinite wisdom decided that it was a training issue and that they needed to increase the pilot hours to 1,500 hours. The financial burden of getting those hours to be able to get your ATP was extreme, and up until recently, the value that you got when you got into the industry was very, very low. I stand before you today as an airport director because I realized after my freshman year of college that making $30,000 and not ever being home was not a career choice I wanted to make. So I pivoted from wanting to be a career pilot to getting into aviation management. On the outflow side of things, mainline pilot retirements in aviation, you have a mandatory retirement age of 65 for air carriers. We have immense amount of growth in demand, and we also have new entrants. Just during the pandemic alone, we had 2 new airlines that have started, Avelo and Breeze, and they obviously need to hire their own pilots. I mentioned the reduction in air service this map shows, and it's hard to see, I apologize, but the red dots show the communities that have lost 25% or more of their service. The yellow dots are the ones that have lost 25% or less, and the black dots are communities that have lost all of their service since April of 2020. So there is a little bit of hope. Captain attrition rates at regional carriers like SkyWest are beginning to subside. Ultra low-cost carriers like Spirit, Frontier, etc., cargo airlines like FedEx and UPS are slowing or pausing hiring. Airline pilot contracts have been finalized for all major carriers, and while they create some long-term uncertainty on how much they're going to cost, it also provides some stability in the industry in the short term. Despite aircraft manufacturing delays, the grounding of the MAX, and the long-term effects of that and other delivery delays, airlines like United have robust growth plans in key markets like Denver. It is their fastest growing hub. That's important to our community. The more Denver grows, the better connectivity we have to new markets and additional flights. I was going to have a short presentation, by the way, but then I saw two legislators sitting here, and I wanted to prepare them for the filibusters that are going to start happening on Monday, so I extended the presentation a bit just for you guys. To continue on the trend that there is hope, we are currently operating at 9 weekly round trips to Denver. We have the daily AM departure, the PM arrival, and then on Thursdays and Saturdays, we have a midday arrival and departure. Based on the latest, we're hoping that we see a second flight return this summer. I had more confidence this morning when I woke up about that than I do this evening after some meetings today. I thought those meetings were going to be positive. They were less than positive, but we are still hopeful that we will see the return of the second daily flight this summer. We're working diligently to hopefully make that happen. Passenger numbers and demand remain strong here, outpacing the capacity that's available. So we desperately need to get those flights back. It'll take time once we do get the flights back to rebuild the market and change traveler habits. And that's going to be reflected in our invoices that we see each month for air service. Right now, they've been relatively low compared to what the maximum cost could be. But once we start flights back up, it's going to take time to change those habits, which will result in some higher billings. But we've been saving money for 2.5 years by not paying the full amount for 2 flights, so that helps considerably. Unfortunately, what will likely occur is I'll be back in front of you within the next couple months talking about higher costs, though, in 2025. The cost per hour to operate the aircraft, thanks to new labor agreements, thanks to increased maintenance costs on the aircraft and increased supplies, we're likely to see an increase per block hour for our air service starting July 1st. Don't know what that'll look like yet, but that is likely to occur on July 1st. I'm full of a lot of great news today, by the way. Commercial terminal update. Litigation is ongoing with trial set for March 17th, 2025. That is a typo. I apologize. March 17th, 2025 is when that trial will kick off. We're anticipating a 3 to 4 week trial at this point. We did recently receive a summary judgment ruling that appears to be favorable to the airport. We're still evaluating that with our legal counsel, but anytime you can find a favorable win with a summary judgment in court is valuable. So we're happy to see that and evaluating how it impacts the rest of our case. Unfortunately, legal costs continue to accrue, and that will continue well into 2025 based on the trial date, and it will have a significant impact on our fiscal year 25 financial situation and our budget requests to the city and the county. On a positive note, we have a new CMAR selected and under contract, and approximately 2.5, 3 hours ago, the airport board approved a phase 1 early package to get them started on building the temporary terminal and trailers and sprung structure, basically everything that's needed to build the temporary facility to move the project forward. And we expect that work to kick off first week of March, if not sooner. There will be more information made public once we have firm information on that. That phase 1 early work includes all those temporary facilities as well as sanitary sewer improvements that were part of the original project. We have received a GMP proposal from the CMAR for the rest of the project. I'm not prepared to speak to specific numbers tonight with that because the board is still in negotiations on that GMP as well as looking at value engineering opportunities. I can tell you that the cost is significantly higher than what it was under the original contract, and we expected that. We are working with our funding partners, the FAA, YDOT, and the Business Council on opportunities to source that funding. As you all know, every time I come to you all, I have explored every option possible before I come to you. So if I do end up in front of you with a request, please know it'll be because I have exhausted every other option to get this project done. Shorter update, snow removal equipment. That litigation is ongoing with a trial set for January of 2026. And once again, the legal costs will continue all the way into fiscal year 26, unfortunately. On a positive note, we have some other projects that are moving forward. Several of you were able to attend a recent public meeting for our airport master plan. I appreciate you all coming, for those of you that were able to make it. The airport is required every 10 years to do a 20-year master plan. We're required to do that by the FAA. They help fund that master plan, 93.75%. The state does 3.75 and leaves 2.5% local. That master plan is coming together and will be wrapped up early this summer. There will be another public meeting likely around May. There is information about the master plan on a website dedicated for it, rksmasterplan.com. If you weren't able to come to the meeting, all of the information from the meeting, as well as the chapters that have already been finished, is up on that website. Once again, it's rksmasterplan.com. We're fortunate, thanks to funding that was appropriated by the legislature through ARPA to SLIB. We were fortunate enough to receive a grant for that to do water and sewer upgrades at the airport. So that work is underway. Appreciate the support from the legislature on that. That there's no way the airport, in theory, could have ever funded that without coming to you all and asking for that money. So it's important to be able to get critical infrastructure taken care of, and being able to use ARPA dollars is a godsend for that. Our runway 321, which is our crosswind runway, and the associated taxiways that go with that, are going to be undergoing a lighting rehab this summer. The lights on that runway are 20 years old, and you cannot get parts for them anymore. We continue to solder control boards on certain fixtures that we can't really solder on anymore because we just can't get parts anymore. So that's another project that's funded by nearly 94% federal, 4% state, and 2.5% of local. That's about $1.8 million for that project. We have a high-speed runway broom that is on order. That is to make sure that we can keep the airfield open and safe during winter operations. And then our last project that's current is we are converting our old snow removal equipment building to aircraft hangar space, which is desperately needed at the airport. I'm almost done, I promise, Larry. On the horizon, we are working on finalizing land use changes for a cell phone tower lease. We have received FAA safety approval to have a cell phone tower built at the airport. If that lease gets approved by the FAA, which we're hopeful for based on the latest info, it has the potential of generating $1.3 million of revenue over 40 years for the airport. So that's a great opportunity for us. We also are excited to be welcoming a new Part 145 repair station, aircraft maintenance facility. The building that I just mentioned that we're converting to hangar is under a long-term lease with this company that is expanding their operations from Minnesota. We've been able to recruit them here to set up shop. It fills a major gap for our customers and for our air service, and really checks a box both on revenue generation as well as service offerings for the operators at the airport. For those of you that were at the master plan, you heard us talk about carbon capture, sequestration, and utilization. We are under contract with Frontier Carbon Solutions on a cooperation agreement to evaluate the opportunities for a airport-based decarbonization hub. We would be the first airport in the world to have an airport-based decarbonization hub. It provides an opportunity for us to meet our customer sustainability goals while also utilizing the airport's assets to generate revenue. At the same time, also being able to support a local industry that is starting to grow here. So we're really excited to be partners with Frontier Carbon Solutions on that. And there will be more news coming here in 2024 on that partnership. It's going to be a really exciting opportunity, and to be the first in the world to do something here in Rock Springs is pretty awesome. Supplemental AIP grant application. There will be a NOFO coming out from the FAA next month that we'll be applying for grant funding for. We're also working with Congresswoman Hegeman's office on a community project request for fiscal year 25. We are constantly focused on working on getting water to the airport. Paul and his team and The engineering folks that are working on that, I think it's Sunrise, we're eager to see that wrap up, the level 2 study later this year, and hopefully work with you all and work with the county and the Joint Powers Water Board and all the other stakeholders to move that forward. Energy development, we're looking at utility scale solar, microreactor nuclear, basically any opportunities to generate electricity at the airport. There is going to be an immense amount of electrical demand at airports nationwide over the next several decades, and it's imperative that we find cost-effective ways to produce that power. To do the infrastructure upgrades to pull that from the grid, the cost would be exorbitant and create significant issues for the airport. So we're looking at innovative ways to be able to use the land at the airport to not only produce power, but generate revenue as well. We're also going to be looking at enhanced air service development efforts once the terminal wraps up. We're heavily focused on the idea of less than daily service beyond hopefully getting our regular service back up and running. We want to look at less than daily service to markets like Phoenix and Vegas, where you could have, say, 2 flights a week to those markets, providing critical connectivity. A lot of people drive to those markets, and being able to find a low-cost carrier like a Breeze or an Avelo, or even partnering with an airline like Alaska. There's a lot of opportunities out there. We want to explore all those and pursue them. We will hopefully be tackling a revised strategic plan this year as well. Last time we did one was pre-pandemic, so just need to do a refresh on it. And then we're excited that the first time in our airport's history, as part of the master plan, we are plotting out hangar development lots for folks to be able to build their own private hangars at the airport on land leases. That happens at airports across the country. It hasn't historically happened here, but we have demand for it, and we're going to have those lease lots available, basically creating subdivisions for hangars at the airport, which is a great opportunity for the airport. So I always like to finish up with why do we do it? 27,000 annual visitors are supported by the airport, 324 jobs, $11.4 million of annual payroll, $21.2 million of annual spending, $1.4 million of annual tax revenue, and overall nearly $37 million of annual economic activity that is supported by the airport. So that's why we do what we do, is to support the community, provide that connectivity, not just for our workforce and in their professional capacity, but the quality of place, the quality of life, being able to connect to friends and family and loved ones is critical to attracting workforce and attracting businesses. So we're proud, our team's proud, our board's proud to continue to do that. And we know we've had some hiccups over the last couple years, and we look forward to getting past those and focused on the future again. So with that, happy to answer any questions that you have. I apologize for going long, but hopefully you're sufficiently prepared for next week now.
Council. It is definitely, despite my family's personal tragedy with flying local, our flights are always delayed. We just are cursed that way. Not only is it really a wonderful resource for the citizens of Sweetwater County, but it is absolutely essential for commercial and industrial development. So we're glad you're there, and we appreciate your work.
Absolutely. And yeah, you should just post it on Facebook when you book a flight or any member of your family
April
books a
3rd
flight.
and April 7th.
Yes.
Outgoing and returning, just FYI.
Don't fly those days
No.
because it'll
Unless
be
you want to
delayed
spend extra
because he's
time
on
in
that
Denver.
flight. So
It's not the planes and it's not the airport. It's us. I
Yeah.
don't know what we do, but there we are. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, we'll open the public hearing on an application for transfer of a retail liquor license by Maverick Inc., doing business as Maverick number 741, located at 1100 Foothill Boulevard. Would anyone like to comment? Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing and move to petitions and public comment. If you'd like to address us, please give us your name and who you represent, if anyone. Representative Stith.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Clark Stith, represent House District 48. I don't have a slideshow or a video to show you, so sorry. Couple of things. Legislative session starts next Monday, February the 12th. Today, February the 6th, the Joint Appropriations Committee did its final markup of the budget today. It comes in a little more frugal than the governor. We're spending about $31 million less than what the governor proposed. Sweetwater County and Rock Springs, I think, did pretty well in this budget draft so far. There's $800,000. You may already know this. I apologize if it's repetitive. But I was able to put in an amendment for $800,000 for cities to apply for, to match with $2.4 million of federal funds under a program called the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities division of the Department of Homeland Security in Cheyenne. So you could, if you wanted to, use that to apply for various infrastructure projects, including, if you wanted to, the Bitter Creek. So there's that. Community college did pretty well for the first time in many years. There will be a $1 million that will go to Western Wyoming Community College for matching grants. And the biggest ticket item that could affect Rock Springs is $200 million was set aside for construction of new high schools across the state. There are three in mind, Gillette, Cheyenne, and Rock Springs. But Rock Springs is sort of those three, first in line, at least in theory. So that could be a good thing for Rock Springs. As you also probably know, there's some interesting things that your staff has already done. I was frankly not appreciative that this area, as you come into the east side of town along 9th Street, you follow the railroad tracks down to A Street, and then followed out north along Elk to Reliance, is a qualifying census tract, which I frankly didn't appreciate the significance of that. But your Parks Director, Mr. Lansing, was paying attention, and so I think he's been able to submit an application for improvements to Century Park. And if you're in which is in the qualifying census tract, which makes it almost automatically eligible for those funds, which is nice. There are only 3 qualifying census tracts in the entire state, and one of them is right here in Rock Springs. The other is in Laramie, and then the Wind River Reservation is the third. So keep that in mind, not just for, that also could help later this year, as there's about between estimated $60 to $80 million of so-called leftover ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funds, that I know Janessa Meredith is working on for a beautification at exit 104, which is also in the qualifying census tract, which the governor's office could perhaps be persuaded to fund later this year. In addition, of course, Mr. Kausich here was on the ball applying for funds for the wastewater treatment plant, did that last year, and I believe the city was awarded about $2.2 million or so, in addition to your 6 penny money. Something we just did in the ARPA bill is that if the city has experienced inflation costs associated with that, potentially the city gets a second bite for that project to apply for even more funds to get a bump up. So there may be a second bite to get even more money for that same project, which is kind of nice, right? So that's about it on the high level on the budget. Yeah, if you have, so any questions about that at all? I know you've been listening patiently to a lot of people, so
Council,
I'll stop talking.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say thanks, especially for the additional money to help with the high school and the Bitter Creek project. I think that, I know it's not finalized yet, but I think that's great to at least be moving in the right direction, so thank you.
Thanks. We keep chipping away at it. One thing I forgot to mention, again, I should have been thinking about it. Last year, we appropriated $75 million for infrastructure. It was placed in the governor's office, but actually it's being administered in such a way that cities can apply for a piece of that $75 million to act as matching funds for federal IIJA infrastructure funds. So you could pick a project that you're interested in, whether it's additional water lines, for the city or some other infrastructure project, again, including the Bitter Creek if you so chose. So there's another potential pot of money there for the city to apply for, should you so choose. Those application deadlines are staggered. One of them comes up April 1st, another one June 1st, another one August 1st. So you may, and I think Mr. Kausich is also working on that if it makes sense for the city. Again, not my job to tell you what to apply for or what to do. That's up to you. I feel like our job is to try to create opportunities for you if we can. So, thank you.
Council? I would say, Representative Stith, before you go, that the feedback that I've received is that we should all be very appreciative of your effectiveness and work on joint appropriations. So thank you.
Thanks. It's been fun. Appreciate it. Yeah. Have a good time. It's really dry and dull to watch. It's really dull.
They're a hoot. It's a really good opportunity if you're in the audience to get some work done.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Hello, Mayor and Council. JT Larson, House District 17. Just kind of want to give a pre-session update on top of what Clark has already said. There was a question brought up earlier about abandoned buildings and dilapidated buildings in downtown Rock Springs, and Representative Sherwood out of Laramie is bringing a bill to address that. I think she's brought it before. I did sign on to that bill. I don't have the exact details of it, but I can forward you all the basic summary of the bill. Basically gives a tax, not credit, but deferral to the property, so that way they have more of an incentive to fix the building or sell it and have someone else fix it. So, but it doesn't give the city any more powers than they currently have to deal with those buildings. So, and then let me just pull up my 3 bills I have here. My first bill is vehicle registration e-certificate and grace period. It's just to kind of bring our statutes up to date and allow people to have an electronic form of their vehicle registration. Helps commercial companies that have a lot of vehicles and a lot of people driving them to just share their registrations with their employees, as well as it gives the county's treasurers the wherewithal to share those. Like if someone purchased it online, they could share that electronic certificate online with them, so they don't have to worry about a phone call or a trip to the county. There is a bill that I'm working on. It's local impact assistance percentage discretion through the Industrial Siting Council. A few years ago, they made it an economies of scale tiered structure for impact assistance fees when large projects come into communities. And so I just want the cities and counties to be able to apply for up to the 2.76% of the state's portion of sales and use tax, if they have a reasonable justification for the need of those dollars. So that's just a quick correction there. And then I am doing a joint resolution, which is more just a statement, and it's going to just basically state that we have support for local input and in federal rulemaking, given the light of recent events that we've all been dealing with for months now. So my phone number is 307-389-0162. Any constituents or mayor and council, you're welcome to reach out to me anytime during session or out of session, and I'm happy to answer questions that might come up. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Thank you for your work, sir. Would anyone else like to address us this evening? Would anyone but Devin like to address us? No, that's terrible. Okay, with that, we will close public comment and move to bills and claims for February 6, 2024. Council, do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Demas?
I make a motion to approve the bills and claims for February 6, 2024.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Botello. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
I'll be abstaining.
Okay, so the motion carries with Councilors Pedri and Thompson abstaining. That takes us to the salaries for January 22nd, 2024. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Demas?
I make a motion to approve the salaries for January 2022, 2024.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Hanson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
I'll be abstaining. And just to make a note why I am abstaining, I have a son that works for the rec center and he's on payroll there. And bills and claims, I abstain from that just because we have some affiliation with housing and don't want to impact that.
Abstain also. Yes, I'll add that in. Both my wife and my daughter work for the city in different departments, and just so there's no thought of anything improper.
Thank you. So the motion carries with Councilors Pedri and Thompson abstaining. And thank you for sharing that. Which brings us to new business. The first is a request for transfer of a retail liquor license by Maverick Inc., doing business as Maverick, number 741. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Demas?
I make a motion to approve this request.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Botello. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. The next item is a request from the Finance Department for permission to apply for a FEMA Building Resilience Infrastructure and Communities Grant Program to further the Bitter Creek Restoration Project. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Demas. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The next is a request from the Parks and Recreation Department for permission to fill a vacant recreation supervisor position at the Family Recreation Center Ice Arena. Is there any discussion? Or is there a motion?
I'll move to approve, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilor Zadi. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Petrie. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Bringing us to a request from the Rock Springs Housing Authority for permission to bid a replacement vehicle for their maintenance department. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Botello. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? The motion carries unanimously. Our final item of new business is a request from Brody McJunkin for 3 malt beverage permits for the Bud Cup Hockey Tournament on March 22nd, 2024, from 5 p.m. until 11 p.m., March 23rd, 2024, from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m., and March 24th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Family Recreation Center Ice Arena. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Hanson?
I move to approve this request.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Was that?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? The motion carries unanimously. For resolutions this evening, our first is 2024-04.
A resolution accepting and approving an agreement to provide professional services from Sunrise Engineering for the City of Rock Springs 2024 sanitary sewer and storm lining project in the amount of $96,562 and authorizing Max Mickelson as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said agreement on behalf of the City of Rock Springs.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Demas?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-04.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Pedri. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Our next resolution is 2024-05.
A resolution to grant a right-of-way construction and maintenance easement to Rocky Mountain Power, an unincorporated division of Pacific Corp., and authorizing Max Mickelson as mayor of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said right-of-way easement on behalf of said city.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Botello. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Hanson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Our next resolution is 2024-06.
A resolution authorizing and directing Max Mickelson as mayor of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to accept and approve a budget revision to the budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion?
To approve.
Thank you, Councilor Zadi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? The motion carries unanimously. Our next resolution is 2024-07.
A resolution accepting and approving a purchase order and addendum with Carrier Corporation for the purchase of a compressor for the IT department's chiller and authorizing Max Mickelson as mayor of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk of the city of Rock Springs, Wyoming, to execute said addendum on behalf of said city.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Councilor Demus?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-07.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Our final resolution of this evening is 2024-08.
A resolution accepting and approving an agreement to provide professional consulting services from Brightly Software, Inc. for the City of Rock Springs Parks Department, Family Recreation Center, and Civic Center for a 5-year subscription with the initial amount of $15,166.18 and authorizing Max Mickelson as mayor and Matthew L. McBurnett as city clerk to execute said agreement on behalf of the City of Rock Springs.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Councilor Hickerson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Pedri. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Taking us to our next item, which is the second reading of ordinance 2024-01.
An ordinance amending Article 7.1 entitled Building Code of the Ordinances of the City of Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, if any of the council would like to provide a brief update on any of the meetings or activities that they've been involved in since our last meeting, now's the time.
Your Honor.
Councilor Zadi?
Just want to quickly mention, I had the opportunity with other council members to attend the Red Tie Gala for the Hospital Foundation, and they did give us a plaque and award kind of recognition for the support of the foundation for the last 10 years. I failed to bring that with me tonight, but I will bring it down to the City Hall here in the next couple days. Also, I wanted to just give a shout out to Paul and the Streets Department again with snow removal. Saturday night, with the windstorm and the snow that we received in my neighborhood, it just piles up so much in those intersections. Saturday night and Sunday, we had a number of people getting stuck. So neighbors, a couple of neighbors got together and they cleared out the intersections so we could get traffic through. Paul, I let him know what was going on, and right away, Streets Department came over and cleared that out, and I really appreciate it. There were 3 or 4 side dumps full of snow that they removed at least. I watched them take away. So that little storm we had and all that wind, there was a lot that piled up there. So thank you.
Very good.
I would like to say that I attended the chili cook-off at the college and was the judge. It was a very good time. I have to give a big shout out to Dave Tate. He organized it. He put it together very well.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, with that, we can all go home.